I was really bad at sales for a really long time. I was always a high producer, but I was not skilled. I was brute force and just like disgraceful amounts of activity, follow up. Like the moment a lead comes in, I'm on top of it. Like the second it comes in. I would say when I was a not even mediocre skilled sales rep, I was making 30 grand a month. Then when I started getting good, I went to 100 very quickly. Because I was a sniper, there's a very disciplined approach to shooting. It served me very well in business. You shoot 4 or 5 rounds and then you change off the group. But what that means is that you're essentially missing your target and then you keep missing your target intentionally so that you can adjust and then definitely hit the target. And I think it's the most important thing that salespeople or business people have to learn is that like the discipline comes in seeing 10 things that are wrong, but only fixing one.
My name is Dana Neeson, and I have a very special guest today. This guest was a Special Forces sniper. He's the former CEO of 7th Level, the current CEO and owner of Sales Sniper, run out of Australia, I believe, as well as his newest venture. He's the CEO and founder of SDR Call Center. Welcome, Matt Ryder.
Thank you. Good to be here. Nice to see you.
What have you seen training as many salespeople as you have in your career? What do you see is sort of like the most frustrating or number one thing that you see why agents or salespeople just cannot implement what you're trying to teach?
You know, I think there's a couple of things there. I think, lack of ability to have just coherent conversations. So I think like lack of social skills is a huge one, especially right now with like the young, sort of the new up and coming sales reps, the sort of Gen Z sales reps. COVID happened. They don't have to go out and pick up women anymore. Sales is predominantly a guy's game, but it's definitely doesn't, it's just traditionally, right? It's like 80% men or whatever it is, right? And so, but like, Tinder, you just swipe, you don't have to approach anybody. You don't have to like have a social skill. You don't have to, and then Zoom, everything's over the phone. Like, they're having Zoom hangouts. They're not getting that human to human sort of skin to skin type interaction. And you don't learn the nuances of human communication, and then with COVID, everyone being kind of locked down, I think they spent some really formative years that they're supposed to learn that stuff and make the mistakes in an environment where it's very difficult. So what I see a lot of is a lot of the sort of Gen Zers, they just do not know how to speak to people. And then I think then their only interactions with people are to get money out of them in transaction, which makes you into a psychopath, right? So, I see a lot of really, hungry young sales kids that just are looking for word tracks. What do I say here? What do I say here? I was like, mate, like, can you not just hear what they're saying to you? Like, you can't do that.
That's a really interesting point, Matt, that you brought up, because I've always known that there is just a general lack of communication skills that I've been seeing. So I've been building this team for 4 years, and I think you're right. I think that just the lack of general communication skills limits someone's ability to really grasp the information that we're trying to teach them, because they're so focused on what you just said, the words on the paper. Well, when am I supposed to say it? And then like, I get questions all the time. Well, if someone says this, like, how would you respond to that? Or where would I put that in the script? And it's like, it's very difficult for me actually to communicate back to someone that it's so much more than that, right? It's just almost to the point where I wish I didn't even have a script.
Yeah. I think everyone should use a script, but I haven't looked at a script in years.
Right.
Because it's in my head. I know what to do. I have 50 of them in my head. Like, I just know, like, you have to memorize the script. People have to memorize it because you can't listen to someone unless, if you're thinking about what you're about to say, you are not listening to someone. And so like, a lot of the time when you're like listening to sales reps, you can sort of like hear their internal monologue. And it's like you're waiting for your opportunity to talk, which means you're never going to pick up on the subtleties. Like if someone says like, why do you want to do this or whatever? And they give you 3 things. They go, well, it's the 1, the 2, and the 3. the way that I just said it, the 3 is the most important one, right? If I go, well, it's the 1, the 2, and 3, it's the 1, right? Because like that hesitation and pause means like they were giving that gravitas, and they were doing that because that's what's important to them. You know, the other 2 are throwaways, right? And so like, but if you don't know how humans talk to each other, you're not gonna pick that up, you know. If you, and so it's really quite difficult. I think there's that, and I think like, because I think with a basically decent communication structure, anyone can be pretty good at sales. The thing that people don't talk about to be excellent at sales is there's an intelligence barrier. There just straight up is. Like, you have to be able to do some really significant problem solving in real time to be excellent.
Right.
And you're solving a human puzzle. And
do you think you have to be excellent to have the definition of success that people are looking for?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because like there's 2 ways to be really successful in sales. The only measure of how good you are at sales is how many sales you make. That's it. That's the only measure, right? And so like some people achieve it through just incredible amounts of just activity, hustle muscle. I'm like, that's my default, is hustle muscle. I was really bad at sales for a really long time. I was in sales probably full time for 8 years and I was terrible. But I was always a high producer, but I was not skilled. I was brute force, and then just like disgraceful amounts of activity, follow up. That's how I sell these days. I still to this day, I am an extremely active sales rep. Like the moment a lead comes in, I'm on top of it. Like the second it comes in, I'm on them, because like I just like, it's obsessive. And so, but then when I started, and then so you can be really successful. Like I think I was probably I would say when I was a not even mediocre skilled sales rep, I was making 30 grand a month, right? Through force of will.
And what was
I think
the average in that industry when you were making 30 grand a month? What was the majority of everybody else making?
5 to 7, and that was like in my company, so and then when I started getting good, I went to 100 very quickly, but I was quite like strategic in the approach of how I got good. Like I didn't change things that I thought were good until I changed the things that were bad. And I'm like, because I was a sniper, there's a very disciplined approach to shooting, which I think like served me very well in business. Like, because when you're shooting, like you never, like amateur shooters will do what's called chasing rounds. So you'll do a shot, it goes up top left, so you adjust the scope, do a shot, it goes down here, you adjust the scope. You don't do that. You shoot 4 or 5 rounds, right? And then you change off the group. But what that means is that you're essentially missing your target, and then you keep missing your target intentionally, so that you can adjust and then definitely hit the target, right? This is like when you're on the range, right? And you do that so that when you're out doing the real thing, you don't miss, right? So like, there's a lot of discipline involved in knowing that you're wrong, but maintaining the hold so that you can gather more data and know that the one adjustment you do make is correct.
Interesting.
Right? Like there's a disciplined approach in that. If I make a shot and it misses, and a gust of wind like halfway down blew it off course, that was a gust of wind. Do I make an adjustment? No, because it was a gust of wind. Right. So like if it's a sustained wind, but like, so you've got to minimize your variables. And so there's a great book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And the synopsis is, the hard thing about hard things is only fixing one thing at a time. And I think it's the most important thing that salespeople or business people have to learn, is that like the discipline comes in seeing 10 things that are wrong, but only fixing one. Really fixing one and then fixing the second. Because like, if I'm trying to fix someone's sales, and like, let's just say their openers are really bad, right? And then they also, the middle of their script needs tweaking. This, if I tweak all those things at once, right, I do not know what did it. So what I have to do is just tweak the opener, because the opener is like the top of the pyramid, right? Like if that's like, if that angle is it's good, the angle's wide, okay? Because then like everyone will get down. You know what I mean? Like if it's bad, you're gonna knock a bunch of people out because you have a shitty opener.
Right.
You know, so like your opener is like incredibly important, especially for like final expense. Like, so if you just spend 3 months becoming the best at your opener and do nothing else but focus on that, you will make 5 times the cash, because like you will have 5 times the people that hear your pitch.
Yeah, well, you'll have
Right.
more opportunity for conversations, but the word discipline is so important in telesales. I don't think it's just limited to final expense, but one of the things that I think is really difficult to teach is discipline in having restraint after asking a question. How often have you seen sales reps want to ask a really good question and then immediately keep talking and volunteer multiple choice answers or keep overselling? What was the point of, do you see that? I see that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that comes from like, you hear a lot of people do things like, so what I'm hearing you say is, I don't like that. The reason is because I sell exactly like I talk right now. It's indistinguishable from normal conversation. It's probably a little bit faster, but that's about it. So I don't do anything that you wouldn't do in a normal conversation. And so if someone says, if you went to a bar and you were like, hey, can you get me a burger and fries? And your friend said, so what I'm hearing you say is that you want a burger and fries, you'd be like, all right, weirdo. Or be like,
Exactly.
so when you say you want a burger and fries, what burger and fries do you want? Like, you would never say that. You would just
Now,
go, oh,
I'm going
which
to play
one?
devil's advocate to that, because in that context, you would be a weirdo. However, in other personal situations where I've had friends or family come to me and want my help in maybe solving a personal problem or a problem with business, and they're just feeding me a lot of information, before I come in and try to offer my suggestions or try and solve the problem, I do repeat what I heard to make sure that I got
Yeah,
it. And that is outside of a context of sales. And it sounds very
for
natural.
sure. Yeah, I think you would for sure. You can do you can do summaries. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but I think like people are using it because their gears are turning, right? And if you tell me I'm doing that because my gears are turning, I'll go, fair enough. When you do more, you'll think faster. You know, like the best analogy for that is like you go to a fancy restaurant, there's 20 people, and the waiter doesn't have to write it down. Okay. He's not a genius. He's just done it a lot. Right.
Right.
So like he has a memory mechanism of how to do that. Right. I have a phenomenal memory. I probably couldn't do that. You know, like, so it just comes with sort of practice. But I think people use a lot of, filler words, and they justify their questions. They go, so I'm just curious, like when you say, and it's like there's, and I don't ever say that stuff. Like I just go, oh, why is that? And so
Right.
I use a
Or
very
direct.
small amount of words. And one of the reasons I do that is because like every single time I ask a question, um, it's going to be a one of 3 outcomes: good, bad, or neutral. And so the less words I use, the less chance I have of screwing up, right? Um, and sort of, if my questions are really targeted and quite specific, then like I have a much lower chance of them being bad.
You know,
Neutral I can live with, but yeah.
in addition to those more direct, why is that type of questions, one of the things I've also noticed that you do when I've listened to your like mock role plays is you're very good at interjecting. So you'll hear something that someone says, and instead of letting them finish their sentence, you're like, but why is that? Have you noticed in your role plays, is that intentional or is that just,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's very intentional. Because like if I'm happy with what they've said, I don't need to hear the next bit, because the next bit may or may not benefit me. And if I know that bit benefited me, then I'm going to use that bit. And I'm not good enough to change anyone's mind, right? Like I've tried with my wife many times. It's not happening. But people can change their own mind. And so if there's an idea that they have that I like, I'm going to make them justify it. Because by them, like when I sell someone, they will tell me at least 10 to 15 times throughout that call, right? Why, like in their words, their idea, why they want to do it, why they have to do it, why they need to do it. Right. By the way, you've gone out of focus. I don't know if you can see that. So you might want to touch your camera lens. Yeah.
Out of focus. That's okay. You keep talking. I'll fix me.
Yeah. Yeah. So like like I'm gonna make them do it a lot, right? And the reason is because like it's all those little things. There we go. It's better. All those little things throughout the whole process that like it just makes it an easy sale because it's their idea. And
now,
my ideas
on the same token, because I agree with 100% of everything you said, and I really hope my team is watching this. On the same token, if I hear anything that is like an objection in disguise, I'll make them tell me why they don't just do that then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, but why do you think people are uncomfortable with that? So for an example, in final expense insurance, I might find out that someone says, you know, my son is a millionaire, right? My son's a millionaire, but I really want to make sure I have, you know, insurance so he doesn't have to pay for it. So to me, that's objection.
Why is that? Your son's got, you could just leave it to him. What's the big deal?
So
I don't want to do that. Why not?
Tell me why you wouldn't just let your son pay for it, because I already know that's what you're going to tell me at the end. Well, that's too expensive. My son's just going to pay for it. So it's also about like identifying not just why someone likes something, but also paying attention to those clues to get them to see why they wouldn't do their plan B or whatever the objection is that you
exactly. And you've got to say it in like a little bit playful or a little bit curious. Well, why not just do that? That sounds like a pretty good plan.
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
You know, and they're gonna be like, well, I just don't want to be, you know, I just don't want to leave that. Well, like, why not though? Like, you know, like, what's the big deal? I just don't want to be a burden. How so? You know, and then it's like, and that speed is like, I don't leave any white space. Like, it's very like, because like there's a bunch of reasons for that. It's quite hard to do. Like, it takes a lot of practice, but once you do it, it's like, you know, you can be a much less skilled rep, but if you can do it that quickly, like it puts conversationally, puts people off balance. So like it's very hard for them to keep up because like I'm used to talking like that, they're not, and so like it becomes really
communication
difficult.
Skills, I'm hearing are lacking. Also, what I believe is lacking is just, maybe this has to do with communication skills, but just a general sense of curiosity. Like, why would someone
big time
up? And then people just not paying attention, like what I'm calling clues. Do you believe that's kind of one and the same? The not being curious where something is coming from?
Well, you know, I think that they just so they put this is one of the interesting things when you've had the conversation 4,000 times, right?
Yeah.
Like you assume you know what they're talking about. And that's what kills people, because like in the very beginning, they might ask those questions a little bit, like quite natively, like, oh, what do you mean? Because they don't know. But again, asking a question is a brave thing to do. When you actually don't know the answer, asking questions is brave, right? Because you're like, oh, what do you mean? Because you're going like, huh? What are you talking about? That's why so many people I go to events. You're probably the same. I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right. I'm at events, raise my hand. Hey, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand that. You know what I mean? And everyone else has the same question. They just don't. They just pretend like oh yeah, I get that. You know, but that's how you get the most out of stuff. But you know, there's a vulnerability to it, I suppose you could say. So, but then when you've had the conversation a lot of times, you go, oh, I've heard this shit before. And it's like, well, you haven't, because that person's a different person. You've never spoken to them. Like, so you have to, it's a difficult thing to do. You have to sort of forget everything and then be really curious, because you're talking to a new person.
Exactly.
And, you know, and so like, you know, like if we start having a conversation about my hand and I go like, describe my hand to me, you know what I mean? But we're going to have the same conversation. Like, if you don't ask me what side of the hand I'm looking at, we're having different conversations. So like I would go, well, what side of the hand? what I'm looking at or what you're looking at? Because
Um,
like if I don't ask that question, we're having a different conversation. And a lot of people are not having the same conversation they think they're
oh,
having
that's so
because
good.
yeah,
Yes.
they're not picking up on the things.
The
So
sales
if
rep is having the conversation of really the script. The customer is having
yeah,
the conversation, really kind of telling them everything they need to know. And then they're just
they're
going
just filling
along.
in the gaps, but the gap they're not filling it in properly because it's a different person. And so like you don't know. And I think like people don't realize like we have such an interesting job. You know, a lot of people don't sit down and speak to their partner for an hour.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like having a one-on-one conversation like what we're having right now, like eye to eye, whatever it may be, like is a rarity in society. Like we do it a lot, because we do it for a job. You know, but those people don't, you know,
I never
especially older people.
thought about that people aren't really having
Yeah.
sit conversations. That's really not happening.
Yeah, yeah, they're not, and so you know, like we get to do that for a job, and so people are like inherently interesting. Even the most uninteresting person, if you sit down and really speak to them, you'll find some interesting shit about them. You know what I mean? And so like you've got to kind of like I guess see the interestingness of what you do, which is like I talk to strangers for a living.
Right.
And like you get to find some insight out about people. You get to find some interesting shit about people that you're never gonna meet before. And I find that kind of like interesting and cool. And like I like, you know, navigating. I like navigating that. You know, like I was sitting down here. I'm at an event right now, and like you know, sitting down, just like at the fire pit yesterday. Old guy sits next to me. I was like, "Hey man, what are you doing here?" You know, he's like, "This we chatted for like half an hour,"
That's cool.
and it was
I'm gonna
like,
ask
"Cool." I
you,
learned all about it.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna ask you a hot seat question.
yeah, go for it.
So a lot of my obsession for sales really came when I took the NEPQ course. I was always good at sales, kind of like you, just kind of naturally good. I think because of my communication skills, kind of just allowed me to sail and do fairly well. But NEPQ was really the first formal sales course I invested in. And of course, you and everybody there played an incremental role in my success, but you left.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
did.
tell us why you left seventh level.
There's a lot of reasons really, but like the main one being like you know, I didn't see what they saw, you know, in terms of like where it was gonna go. You
Mhm.
know, I was, you know, the numbers guy, sort of, you know, and so I just didn't see it. And then like I didn't want to have to I think also like, you know, the CEO role, like the founder CEO role is different than like, you know, I was a significant equity stake owner and I was a CEO, but the CEO of like a business like that is just a different role than what like I'll never do it again. Like
Mhm.
I'm the most entrepreneurial out of like all the people there, right? Like I'm the true entrepreneur. The other guys are like entrepreneurs, right? And we've had that conversation, like it's a new thing, right? We all discussed that, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm a true entrepreneur. Like if you give me a phone, that's all I need to start a business, and I can start a $1 million a year business. You give me 30 days, I got you, right? Like, and I've done that multiple times.
Okay.
And so like I'm a builder. And so I was sort of, and but I'm also, you know, I'm 6'2", I'm 240, covered in tattoos, used to kill people for a living. So like I'm sort of people find me a little bit intimidating. And so like I was also like the bad guy, right? Um, a little bit like the heart of the business in terms of like the staff, you know what I mean? Like the mentor, but like salespeople are inherently like lost souls, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of them don't have strong father figures. And I am a strong father figure, you know, for a lot of these 20-year-old guys, you know. And so they are drawn to me because like I am the strong male, you know. And so um that's what salespeople are. And so I had a super loyal, you know, group of people. But I was, you know, I think I was becoming a far worse person I think I was becoming a worse dad. I think I was becoming a worse husband, because I was, forced to be the type of person you have to be to sort of, do that role long term is just not the person that I want to be. Like I am a builder, I am creative, I am like chaos. And you can't be that if you're the CEO. You can be that as like the fucking fun founder that comes in, bounces out, and just fucking does whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, you can do that, which is great. And at Sales Sniper, that's what I was. I was just a hardcore leader. You know what I mean? And just led from the front, hopped on the phones, sold the shit out of everything, and just was like, "Come on, boys, follow me." Right? But when you're, CEO of an entity like Seventh, it's more of like a lead from the rear, right? You're more steering the boat, and there's a lot more. It's compliance and lawyers and accountants and discipline and HR. And I was just like, it's just not who I am. And I had to do it because I was the most adult in the room, right?
I
So
definitely have a better, clearer picture of it. Just wasn't long-term Matt Ryder. So
and I knew it wasn't going to be like, I knew that going in. I knew like there would come a time where like I'd said that multiple times. There comes a time where I'm not going to do this, like, because like also I don't like, the average run of a CEO is 2 years, right? And and there's a lot of reasons for that, but the main reason is like you if you grow something, if every month is a new high, like you're ultimately unqualified constantly, and like everyone is, which is why, like, one of my best mates worked for me for a long time. And he was like our, head of operations. And he said, he's one of my best friends. He said, "What do I have to do to become the CEO?" I said, "You have to quit." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, mate, like, you didn't really have any business experience. You came in, you've done fantastic. You've grown up with the business, but like, we can't have an entire leadership team where every month is an unknown, because we've grown, say, every month or every quarter or every year. We have to bring in people that have done bigger things,
right?
So that we, otherwise, like, we're just inventing shit. And it's like, this has been done. Like, people know what to do. And that's not us. So like, am I going to be the CEO of $100 million a year revenue business? Fuck no. And like, if our dialer, which I think I'm 100% confident is the best dialer on the planet, like, I'm sure we will sell. I know I'll sell it for 100 million, right? And software is a bit different, but like, if the dialer gets up to a $50 million revenue, which fuck, I hope I'm nowhere near it when it does. I would have sold it long before that. But like, there's no fucking chance me and my business partner are in the C-suite. I am so unqualified to run a large software company, but I can start one.
How much
I can start one like a motherfucker. Do you know what I mean? Like, right? Like, but the guys who can run that cannot start one.
That's interesting. Okay, so let's transition to that then. So you have now started SDR call center, and I've been following you from the beginning when you've been building it and announcing sort of what your plans were. So give us the 10,000-foot view of what SDR call center is, who your target market is, and what you're trying to accomplish from just a B2B or B2C.
Yeah, for sure. So like, when I sort of left Seventh, like the biggest problems that we had was the dialer was really like, and there is no good one. Like, we tried them all, from Allaware to Kixi to like, you name it. Like, they're all shit because they're all running off the Twilio network, and it's ultimately doomed to fail anyway. So like, I was like, okay, so there's got to be a way to fix it, because I was like, my thought was, there's no way call centers can do that and win. Turns out they sort of can, as long as they're dodgy, but the real ones can't, right? And so I was like, okay, so I just went kind of deep in the matrix and like, why? And then that brought me down like the whole road of like the telecommunications system and compliance. And I was like, oh my God, all the rules that we were breaking. Jesus Christ. Like, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And so, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is a good angle. because the hole in the market was everyone hates their SDRs, which is like people outbounding their leads for them, right? Everyone hates that. It's a shitty position a lot of the time because it's like entry level, so it's high turnover. By the time you get them good, they'll want to be closers, or you know what I mean? Like, and like, and the dialer systems are inefficient. So like half the reason why they can't make money in that role really is because the dialer is so inefficient. They're struggling to have more than 5 or 6 conversations a day. So I was like, if I can fix that and I can find like cheap SDRs, I was like, I can use the SDR pain because everyone knows their pickup rates are low, but I don't think anyone's going to believe me that I can magically fix it. Right. So if I start a call center, then I can get all the data I need and I can figure out the dialing side at a super high volume very quickly because everybody hates SDRs. And I have enough trust in the market to be able to just grab at least a few $100,000 a month worth of revenue. I think we did 300K month one. Right. So like I pre-sold a fair like 30 accounts or something like that. Right. So I was like, sweet.
Are you working with now? What type
insurance, solar, CRMs, software, coaching, consulting,
are they
fitness.
selling it from start to finish? Or are they kind of making appointments, or what's the role?
So we do a couple of things. One is like live transfers to agents. Like for insurance right now, we're doing like live transfers. We're doing like in-home appointments for things like solar and HVAC, right? So we booked in-home appointments. There's one where we do like paid appointments. So we get the leads and it's like $29 for an appointment. Like generally speaking, we're sticking to that more appointment setting.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Appointment setting, transfer, not the actual close deal done.
No, it's not really like we can, but it would just depend on the product. It couldn't be like, you know, I wouldn't want to make it a really hard, you know, I wouldn't want to do like a difficult sale, but if it was sort of like, you know, lay down city, they could probably go all right. The whole point of what I've tried to say is like they're just okay. They're pretty good. They're fine. Right? Like we're not making killers, you know, but the position doesn't have to be, and there's no such thing as a rock star outbounder, like rock star SDR. You know, they're not the front man. That's the sales guy.
Sure.
Right. So like you want a sales guy, go to a sales guy, right? You want a rock star, go find one. Good luck. You know what I mean? So like they're not in that position. And so, but if I can get someone who's pretty good and then they're on a dialer, my guys have 40 conversations a day.
What's your answer rate right now?
About 20 to 25%.
Okay. And then the size businesses that are like your sweet spot, do any like single, you know, agents come to you, or is it more agencies? Or
so we have minimum is 3 seats, right? Okay. Which is like most dollars, to be honest, like 3 seats. We'll probably change that in the future, but like right now, like logistically, it just doesn't make any sense. And we got people is right now, I think our biggest contract that I'm getting signed at the moment is 300 seats. Great. Right. I would say the average is going to be 5. Right. You know what I mean? Like teams of 5 come on, they got outbounders because like, you know, that answer rate is dial to pick up. That's not like lead to contact. Some of the guys have upwards of 70%. You know what I mean? But again, there's a lot of variables that go in that, but like we have a speed to lead system where like the moment a lead is generated, it's cold. So our dialing system is like an automatic dialing system. So the agent doesn't choose who to dial. We pre-program how it works. You can go in and like, you know, manually dial, but like we pre-program how it works. And then there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, like a lot of things, and then we've been able to maintain at very high volumes. I'm talking like $15,000 a day, right? For a single account, like volume. Like, you know, 20% plus pickup rates from what single dial to pick up, right? So, you know, if they're doing, you know, if our average agent does say $350 a day, right? So $350 a day, they have a 20% pickup rate. They're having roughly 60 to 65 people pick up the phone. And then they're having, you know, a conversation over 15 seconds of say like 50, and then over 2 minutes of say like, you know, 30, right?
Okay. Yeah, we track that.
20 to 30, right? So like, you know, so like it's a lot of conversations, you know, that's a lot more than most.
Where I'm hearing the biggest benefit for, you know, again, life insurance teams would be they could generate the best internet leads in the world, but if they can't call them efficiently enough, or if they're using a dialer that has spam detection, they're not going to be as efficient as if they were able to use what you've created to maximize the opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's like, your biggest lever as a single rep, if you're doing outbound, is your pick up to conversation rate, right? Like from a skills perspective, that is the biggest thing. But before that is the pickup rate. Now there are things that you can do, I think, like manually, like you can track your pickup rate per time of day. I can tell your agents right now, 9 to 11, right? Wednesday, Thursday, and about 5 to 7 Wednesday, Thursday are the most efficient times to outbound out.
Mhm.
Like generally speaking, right? Mondays and Fridays are pretty average. Tuesdays is okay, but Wednesdays and Thursdays are that's your money. And 9 to 11 seems to be the best all around. Right? I don't know why, but that's what it is, right? So but you can track that, and you can track your days and your pickups, and you can kind of like maximize. But at the end of the day, like a lot of pickup rates are 3 to 5%. So like, then you have to start breaking rules, and rules are very expensive if you get caught breaking them, $500 per instance. So it's a serious game, and they're handing out fines right now, pretty left, right, and center, because there's all kinds of incentives for like, so if you call someone on the do not call list, they get 30% of the fine.
It
So
blows
that
my mind right now, the amount of bad information that is circulating in the insurance industry about best
triple
practices
dial and all
for
this kind of stuff.
dialing, and they don't even know the rules by state.
Yeah.
And
Did you know triple dialing is the number one thing that gets you spam flagged? It's also illegal.
yeah, I mean, I could talk about compliance all day. We have a compliance attorney that has really helped us navigate everything that we're doing from the moment we started. And I just sit back and look at everybody.
Crazy.
Now the problem is they're too small. A lot of these single agents to really ever get caught, right? Because
But they're not though, because you
large
get
scale,
caught by the one person you dial.
just one, and then
The
that
people
could
you dial, the people you dial are the ones that dub you in. The system doesn't catch you. The system sees everything you're doing, right? But the thing is, like, they don't, there's too many phone calls being done for them to give a shit about like trying to catch you. You know what I mean? But
right,
everything's logged, and they see, and the more rules you break, the more numbers will be burned. Right.
sure,
Because every time you break a rule, it's like logged in the system, and then it just burns your numbers to the point where the FTC will do an FTC flag, which is where your numbers stop ringing. Right.
exactly.
And it just goes straight to voicemail, but you don't know that. But right. But you just think you have like a 0.5% pickup rate for some reason, right? And then the only ones that pick up are like landlines. But so yeah, and but like it's the person, right? So all the person, it's very easy to file a TCPA complaint, and
Mhm.
there are lawyers that do it for you.
Mhm.
And then what they do is they then find out who called you, they trace it back, then they get the call records, okay, because that's public information that you can just very easily get.
Yep.
And then from there they go, okay, there's say 400 fines here. That's $200,000 worth of fines. They go, we'll get everyone together. We'll do a class action and say, hey, you either pay us $100,000 or we're going to put the $200,000 worth of fines in.
Right, exactly. It
I
is,
had that happen to, I've had that happen to a client,
wow. Wow. So how can
you know?
people contact you, Matt, if they want to see if they can utilize SDR call center to help them in their business?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can just go to sdrcallcenter.com. We have a contact form. And you just kind of go through there, and one of my guys will reach out, have a chat, and then they book them with me. I think I'll be, the amount of inquiries I have though, I'll be definitely be adding someone soon onto the thing. I think I had like 64 calls booked
That's
like
amazing.
last week or something. So
And no one's
not bad
helping
with
with
no
the
ads.
onboarding process of that?
No. I've got a team doing that, but like I do the sales. Um, but in saying that, it's not really sales. It's like, hey, what
There's
do you do? This is what we do. Do you want to do it? Yep, sweet. All right, cool. Like if no, okay, let me know when you want to. Have a good day.
well,
Bye.
I mean, I really do think that you've positioned yourself in general and already is building up so much credibility. Like you can relate to the sales professional because that's who you are. You know the pain, right? In order to
Yeah.
solve the problem, you have to be able to identify with the pain. You've done an excellent job at
Yeah.
that. Really excited to
Yeah.
see the post when you sell your business for 100 million.
Yeah, me too. And that'll be the last post you ever see. that, that'll
It's a
be
fair,
like
it'd be a
that'll be
fair-
me erased. That'd be me erased from the internet. I'd be
That's
like,
awesome.
and I'm out.
All right.
until I
So if
until I
there
blow
is,
it all.
if there's just one piece of advice as we end this interview that you can give to salespeople that are just banging their heads against the wall, struggling with trying to make it in the business? What do you generally tell people?
I think the main problem is people don't think through their problems. Like I think if you thought about it, you'd figure it out. And I think, and it doesn't mean you're not working hard, but it means you're working really dumb because you haven't thought about it. And like when I say that, it's like just sit down. Like sales training is one thing. I think people should do it. It's great. But sit down and think through your problem. Like it's such an underrated thing. Like you just have to think about it. Like when I was getting better at trying to get good at sales, like I would look at my script and I would go, like I wrote it out exactly like I'm going to say it. I had my own inflections. I had all that written out. And then I would go, like what's going to happen when I say that? And then, when you have like an argument in your head with someone in the shower from a conversation you had 4 years ago, right? Like we'll role play every iteration and really think about it. And then like when you get reactions, go, oh man, like why am I getting that? And think through it. Like don't just come on sales training and ask questions. Like it's just so stupid. It's just so dumb. Like because the information's in your head. You just have to like sit there and go, I wonder why that's happening. And then like what can I do to prevent it or use it? And like sit down, write it out, and like come up with ideas and come up with some like strategies, and then go, I'm going to try this one this week. And then you try it and you go, what happened when I did that? Like use the scientific method, because just think. Right. So many people just go, what's the answer? And just go, well, mate, think about it. Like you tell me the answer, because like tell me. And if you're wrong, like let's talk about why you're wrong. And maybe you're not. Maybe I'm wrong. Why don't you try it?
They have better leads than I do.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Like there's two types of people in the world. Types of people that see every problem as an obstacle, and there's types of people that see every obstacle as an opportunity. So every obstacle is a problem, and people see every obstacle as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And only one of those people makes money. Because like I can honestly say, like this is an honest thing. I'm not like doing the bullshit motivational thing. Like when there's something really bad happens, I go, huh, interesting. Like that's, and I go, all right, well, how do we fix this? Like that's what I say. I go, well, how do we fix it? Or like, okay, how do we? All right, what are we gonna do? Like because every single time something bad has happened to me, something very good has come from it.
Sure.
Like, and I don't think it's not an accident. It's because like I'm physically trying to go like, all right, well, I got screwed here, or I did this. Like that was a phenomenal lesson. Like, so now I get to use that lesson for this. And it's like, all right, well, that's not too bad. And then it's like, okay, well, let's go. Let's go do this, And so, but so many people, they just go like, oh no. Somebody puts a traffic cone in a parking spot and it stops them from parking there. Who put the traffic cone there? Just fucking move it. I seriously, I was at a construction. There's like on my street, the construction guys who were doing something had put all the things. They go, oh, you can't park them, mate. I go, I definitely can. And so I got out, I moved the thing, and he goes like, I go, no, you put this here so you can park here because it's more convenient for you. I go, I happen to live here, so I don't give a fuck. And he was like, oh no. He was like, oh no. He was like, they didn't fall for the trick. Like, it's not real. It's pretend.
Yeah.
So it's like, just move the cone, and so, I think people just really, they look at problems as like these just things that are going to stop them from doing things, but it's just not just a problem to solve. Like anyone can solve any problem. Fucking Elon Musk just caught a skyscraper.
Right.
You know what I mean? If he can do that whilst bringing out robots that are eventually going to kill us, and then saving us by sending us to Mars. What a play, by the way. Bring a bunch of robots here and take over Earth and then charge us to go to Mars. What a beautiful business model. But like if he can do that in the same 24 hours a day that you have, you can figure out how to do final expense sales.
I
I
love it.
promise you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Matt, so much for being
No
here.
worries.
Very much.
Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate it.